Victor Mike Oscar. Name is Chuck, and the QTH is Cincinnati.
Roger, Chuck in Ohio. And what radio are you running today, Chuck?
Today I'm running the TS-850 SAT.
TS-850, Roger, Roger. And let's see here. If you would, why don't you give me well, I've got a pretty good copy, but why don't you give me a little bit about your antenna system specifically for about 10 or 15 seconds, and let me look around and see if I can get a better copy.
Not a problem, not a problem. The antenna copy. Not a problem. Inverted V, and the A is an inverted V 5 feet. So it's not the best antenna I've ever had, but it's the only one I've got right now. Over.
Roger, Roger. Well, this sounds pretty good on my antenna and my 7300 down here around Louisville. It's a real good signal. Just curious if you might be interested in our setup procedure. Starts with you checking to be sure you're in that 100 to 2900 transmit bandwidth, TBW, called wide.
Well, we can check it out. I'm being a visually impaired ham here. I kind of hope that I've got it set up the right way. So we hope the signal is good, but you can certainly check it out. And by the way, I lived in Louisville for a number of years. Over there, I'm right off of Gaudette. What was it? Gaudette Road, something like that. Over there in J-Town.
Yeah, Roger, Roger. There. Well, we're on the Indiana side of the Ohio River, right at Louisville, Roger.
Indiana side of the Ohio River, right at Louisville, Roger.
Yeah, Roger. Yeah, when we first moved there, getting used to the inner loop and the outer loop took a couple months of sometimes turning the wrong way and things like that. But actually enjoyed my time living in Louisville.
Oh, Roger, Roger. Well, I moved to Louisville when they were still taking tolls on those roads coming in from I-64 or I-65, Roger, Roger.
64 I-65, Roger, Roger.
Okay, so yeah, you've been there a while. One of the difficulties I had living in Louisville, as they say, was a lot of the roads that were built actually followed the old cow paths and stuff. So getting around the city with a guide dog was pretty tough work, just because lots of twists and turns and crazy street corners and stuff. It wasn't what they call a gridded city, that's for sure. But nevertheless, I did enjoy living there.
Oh, yes, yes. I spent some time in Nashville as a young one, about 16. I lived in a boarding house in Nashville. And when I had the opportunity to move this way, I said, well, I really liked Nashville, so maybe Louisville will be somewhat similar. And it was, Roger.
Louisville will be somewhat similar. And it was, Roger.
Ah, very good. Visited Nashville. Lovely place to hang out for a few days and sample good food and good music. No complaints there. Like I say, Louisville turned out to be a pretty nice place to settle in, but the job took us west to Tucson, which was quite a change from Louisville to the desert. But at any rate, it was a good time living there. Roger?
Roger, Roger, did you ever go up Mount Lemmon?
Roger, Roger, did you ever go up Mount Lemmon?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Went to the top. Unfortunately, when we visited the top of the mountain, it had been after, the periodic fires that had done their harm. So there was a lot of damage to the trees up there on the mountain at that time. And I don't know that things have improved a whole lot. They still seem to be having a lot of wildfires.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes. The thing about Mount Lemmon is, you're in snow, and down below it's, 110 degrees?
And down below it's, 110 degrees?
We had that, of course, when we went up to the mountain, we did it during the summer. On the valley floor, it was about 107, and near the top of the mountain, it had dropped down to 65 degrees. So, yeah, quite a change.
Yes, sir. Yeah, well, it keeps you kind of off weather there, since it's not all the same. It's kind of like that way in Kentuckiana, as they say. If you don't like the weather, stick around for a minute.
As they say, if you don't like the weather, stick around for a minute.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, there were times down in the valley in Tucson, we'd be 55, 60 degrees, and there'd be 3.5, 4 feet on Mount Lemmon. So, yeah, the change is pretty dramatic.
Oh, roger that. Well, how do you find life in the Cincinnati area?
Find life in the Cincinnati area?
Well, it's sort of funny. I started out in Cincinnati, moved to Louisville, then to Tucson, and back to Cincinnati because the job that my wife had involved a number of transfers. So we started out here, and eventually they called her back to the home office, and so we ended up right back where we started from.
Roger. Where did you move back to the same neighborhood that you were in Cincinnati?
To the same neighborhood that you were in Cincinnati?
No, we lived in an area of Cincinnati called Wyoming, but when we came back, we settled down on the east side of Cincinnati, simply because, that's what we could afford. So it's the area in which we first resided, older homes, and the price had gone up to the point where they were just cost prohibitive. So anyway, there's a bit of the rundown. By the way, your signal here is just terrific. Excellent signal. Thought I ought to tell you that. 5.9 plus. So obviously the short range skip is working pretty well.
Roger. Well, gosh, yes, I'm copying you on the Kentucky SDR, which is just across the river up there around Cincinnati, on the Kentucky side, right at Cincinnati. Roger. I have a good copy also on my local antenna.
Cincinnati. Roger. I have a good copy also on my local antenna.
Yeah, must be over in Covington or.
Let's see. I did have. Come back and talk to me just for a minute. Let me see if you're still on my local antenna.
Back and talk to me just for a minute. Let me see if you're still on my local antenna.
I was going to say, is the SDR located in Covington or Newport?
I'm not real sure. I just know it's on the Kentucky side. They call it Kentucky SDR around Cincinnati, and it is my go-to SDR. I don't want to talk about it too much. Every time I talk about one, suddenly I can't get into it anymore. Everybody and his brother's using it.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what, I'll let you carry on, but I wanted to check in with you. Nice signal on the local antenna, and wanted to give you a shout and say good afternoon. So I'll let you carry on, see if there's anybody else out there that wants to check in. This is WA8VMO.
Roger, Chuck. Gosh, let me just say your radio is set up just beautiful. Your dynamic range is about 3 dB in transmit, which means that your average percent of peak modulation is between 80 and 85%, and the audio curve is just beautiful. I'm looking at it on a frequency meter, and you're just wall to wall beautiful. I wouldn't change a thing. Roger.
Well, it's been my experience that the TS-850 does a pretty good job, and yeah, we know it's older technology, but boy, I've had this radio for a long time, and it just keeps working.
Roger. Now, you're using a hand mic, Roger?
Yeah, you can tell. I do want to get a bass mic. It's on the Christmas list.
Well, I tell you, it sounds pretty nice. The only suggestion I would have is run it and pull it to the corner of your lips and talk across it. Do not talk into it, but talk across it, Roger?
Roger, we can do that. I can make that change. Anyway, you carry on. Have a really good Friday afternoon. I hope you get some check-ins, and that you also have a very pleasant weekend, and we'll drop by again next Friday.
Yes, sir, that'd be great, Chuck. Really would. So you have a good afternoon and a beautiful weekend, 73, and we'll catch you next Friday. This is the Friday afternoon Qso-Vlog net. If you have a radio you want to check out, give me a shout.